Hey y'all, I am so psyched to be having springtime here up in the great Northwest. I feel like I'm just doing what I need to do just to sit in the dang sun today. Um, Getting some messages from some people about my post sharing of Molly Mycelium's experience that she so vulnerably shared just yesterday, and then more today around her internal experience of how depression and her what she was just so struggling with, and what how her experience with mushrooms influenced who she is and moving forward. And what I wanted to tie in is that, and I'll share a video here in a second of some conversations I've been having now for some years with people who've also had experiences with mushrooms or other psychedelics, and what happened was there was a really unexpected and dramatic, what we would call an energetic or Kundalini awakening or energetic response, and they didn't see it coming. They were, maybe the experience was, all of a sudden their body was moving outside of their voluntary control, right? That they really were in a position where they just had to surrender to it. And it was like they had been hooked up to a fire hose, and can be sometimes really quite scary, because it's so different, nothing like they'd ever experienced before. And so I'll share a video of like what that might look like. And for some of you, you might watch this and go, oh my God, that's me, that happened to me, or that does happen to me, right? And this is what this sometimes called this Kundalini awakening looks like. And there's a lot of questions around it and a lot of confusion around it, and there's some assumptions that are made by people that one of the best ways to deal with this is just to let it go, and it'll work itself. It'll let it go. It'll work itself out. It'll take care of the body's own natural process. And I wanted to just add my voice and my experience to this experience, um, because I want to nuance that story a little bit. That recommendation that it'll just take care of itself. So if we hooked up a fire hose to a garden hose, so you start running incredible amounts of water through a garden hose, and you don't have anybody holding the garden hose, what's going to happen? This is going to happen. It's going to happen all over the place, right? So in this particular situation, I'm going to question whether or not just letting it go and letting it happen by yourself is the best thing to do. There's another option that maybe we're designed. There are words that I heard somewhere in some famous book that when two or more are gathered in my name, I don't remember how the rest goes, but there's something mathematical or mechanical that happens when there are two people together in a particular situation being when there's an incredible amount of energy running through one person's body form. All right, I'm going to interrupt my little speech here to show you what I'm talking about. This is what it looks like. Now, this is a highly coordinated example of what I'm talking about. This is not what it looks like when the garden hose is whipping all over the place, but what it looks like when the Kundalini is really moving as it should, up and down through the spine. I witnessed this and didn't know what it was that I was looking at, and I had to ask myself the question, what if this is normal? Because something in this is very intuitively validating. I had to ask myself, what if this is normal? Energy could be joy, grief, sexual charge, sadness, fear. Any of those flavors of energy can come with a huge charge Now, when we take that moment and we split it into two, we have a container like the garden hose, and we have the actual water, right? So the water's going through the container. Now, if you crank up that water through a garden hose that doesn't have a separate person whose sole job and sole responsibility with their consciousness is to hold a conscious hologram to help guide that energy through. If you don't have that person holding space, but and I'm not just saying holding space like, okay, I'm compassionate, I feel for you, I'm going to be here and be present. Like what I'm saying about holding space is it's a refined definition of that phrase, holding space. There's a mechanical way to hold space that really guides that energy through so it doesn't and runs it. Where does it go? It goes right up through the spinal cord. And in yoga, that's considered a Kundalini awakening. What that energy is looking to do is to move right up to that spinal cord and come up and out. And we have an image that all of us recognize, and it's this. But wait, we're not done yet. That's just say it's you. Okay. And say you're on a hero's dose, 5 grams of mushrooms. And all of a sudden, you've got energy coming through you. What the heck do you do? Ideally, that energy is designed to. This is the sound of singing here, or sound of Kundalini. There's the other sound. Okay. Now look at the difference in these pictures. What have I added? I've added that garden hose of energy. And what I'm showing is we actually recognize that symbol on the sides of all of our ambulances and hospitals. Like there's something correlated with that energy running in a particular way through somebody's body. And what it's not doing is doing this over here or this over here. There's a whole bunch of ways that this experience can go wrong, can go haywire. Now, this is what happened to me years ago. And that what I was then trained to be the person that there's a specific mechanical, and when I say mechanical, coordinated process that a person who's going to be playing the role of space holder or garden hose holder, there's particular anatomy that Kundalini needs to go through in order for it to achieve its goal. So this is where maybe my analogy splits off from my analogy being the one where the garden hose is running water through a fire hose is running water through a garden hose. Now that fire hose or that water is not awake or aware or conscious, right? It's just water, and I'm recognizing that even the fictional nature of what I just said, because we're all the amazing work that's being done with water right now. But whereas this Kundalini, what if it has an agenda? What if it plays a role in this awakening? And what does this awakening produce? What are the stories that are given back to us from people who've had this awakening, this knowing? And what if there's energy and information and wisdom that's carried with this Kundalini that moves then? And look at where it's moving. It's moving up through the brain. The brain is here and all the way down the spinal cord, being tied in a nice little bow tie at the very bottom of the spine at the coccyx. Brain being central nervous system, the part that processes and thinks and feels and knows and understands. So if this Kundalini energy is actually carrying information and power up through you and through your brain in a particular way until it reaches your little thinking center up here. You might have a lot more access to everything that the lower part of your brain, your gut intelligence, your heart intelligence, your pelvic intelligence, your throat intelligence, you might have a lot more direct access to those intelligences from moment to moment. Only when you have somebody that's able to help this energy not go launching off this way, not go launching off this way, like will happen if you just let the Kundalini work itself out. You just got to let it work itself out. And so that's what I wanted to offer for today, is that if you're one of those people who've had that experience, this like hugely energetic, and you made energetic experience when you're on psychedelics, or maybe not have been on psychedelics. You could have been on, you might be on a massage table. I know plenty of people who've been on somebody's massage table and they have to shut it down because they don't want to let that stuff fly and freak the massage therapist out. Right? So they may be busy on the massage table trying to lock it down and they don't know what it is. Well, this is what it is. This is that energy trying to awaken itself through you, right up through your central nervous system, which will give you access to this knowing that's already in you. It's already in you, but maybe it's not actually reaching the part where you're conscious. Right? It's not reaching your consciousness. You can access it in dream state or maybe in meditative state. But how would you bring it from that dream state or deep dreamless state, which is below the dream state, bring it all the way up so that you've got more access to that information that isn't spoken in English, isn't spoken in thoughts. It's spoken in perception and knowing, empathic experiencing, or if you have what you consider as the highly sensitive trait. Feels like the end of my rant now. This is what I talk about. This is what I teach people to do, to learn how to be that space holder, because there are specific mechanics for how that works that require, if you're doing that work, that holding of space for somebody who's having that energetic Kundalini awakening, whether or not they're on mushrooms or not, if you play that space holder for them, there's specific anatomy that I would say you should be aware of, because sometimes of trauma in the past, which is usually what brings people in to be seeking this type of experience, is trauma in the past. Now, if you think about, say you've had trauma in the past, think about a dog that's walking along, and if that dog all of a sudden senses a stick coming down at it, like it's going to be beat by its owner, say, unfortunately, that dog is going to protect itself, tuck head, tuck tail, and that's that immediate response, nervous system response to an expected act of violence. Now the nervous system knows that dog knows that the world is now no longer safe, and so the dog is going to hold itself like this to some degree, potentially into the future. So this may be how you went into that psychedelic experience, or just the same thing as that dog, is that trauma, especially repeat trauma in your life, is going to have your posture like this. Now, if your posture is like this, that Kundalini is not, your posture is like this. Let's draw us another picture. Draw us another picture. So from the side, okay, from the side, we got a snowman going on here. So from the side, we'll say, okay. So this is tuck head, tuck tail, right? Whereas somebody else, a normal person, would be like let's see, here, 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 here. Okay. Here's the kind of normal spine. Here's a tuck head, tuck tail spine, the spine that's in a trauma repeat response, because we know trauma is not necessarily what happened back then, but it's what's happening right now in your nervous system in preparation for some scary shit that might come at you. Okay, so you run Kundalini up this person's spine and it goes right up, and then there's right up to the spine and right up to here, and then there's this like 1,000-petal lotus. I don't remember what the traditions maybe consider that what that experience is. But the point that I'm getting to here is now if we have that Kundalini, sorry about the sunshine here. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's going to do like this. Look at that. It's completely skipping around. It's completely skipping around the brain. These two need to overlap. Kundalini needs to overlap through the spine in order for the actual experience of enduring awakening to have happen. If that, that person, if you take your hero's dose, 3 or 4 or 5 or more, grams of mushrooms, you're going to have an event that's like an awakening event. But because it hasn't actually made it all the way up through the spinal cord, all the feedback loops, which are all the reflexes, all the defensive reflexes, all the hiding, all the masks, all the ego-based management strategies that you've created create it for yourself to make it safely through life, those are all housed in that lower part of the brainstem and spinal cord all the way down. And those, as soon as the mushrooms wear off, those are going to come right back into force, and you're going to be sitting there the next day going, wow, that was amazing memory. It's no longer something that you experience because that Kundalini needs to be going through the spinal cord itself, dissolving those feedback loops that keep you hidden from the world, keep you behind your mask. Tying that back to how I started a few minutes ago. So if you're actually playing the space holder, and thank you for that work, by the way, everybody that's recognized that you have found the space in yourself that you can drop in there and then bring that out, and that it actually creates a safe container for other people to move through. Like, that's just such incredible and powerful work. So what I want to add to that is that there is a postural component to what's happening with that person that you may be holding space for, or if you're the one that's having that energetic Kundalini experience, your body's writhing all over the place. That there are mechanics to how that experience goes. There's a number of different frequencies, like a number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different frequencies that Kundalini moves through in order for it to safely come up in velocity, or come up in voltage, amperage and voltage, and back down into easy, content, embodied, safe experience. And that there's a postural way to cut off, to keep separate from that Kundalini. And there's a postural adjustments that you can make here, 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 that will bring your posture into alignment with that Kundalini. And that's what our Kedusha symbol shows, is that there's a straight up and down spine aligned with a vertical axis, which allows that Kundalini to really move, excuse me, to its destination, that nest in the head, and then some sort of spotlight that blows up to the top. And there's a couple things that you can do, such as bringing the chin back. And even as I do that, I notice that there's a spontaneous breath that comes up through me, just as a side effect of me bringing my head into closer alignment with my vertical. And notice that trauma in the past brings the body into that tuck head, tuck tail posture. That's a self-protective posture against the bullshit violence that happens in life. We're designed first and foremost to protect ourselves, to make it through. And the side effect of protecting ourselves takes us out of the opportunity to experience that full and enduring awakening away from pain, away from depression, away from that anxiety, away from isolation, and into touching and tasting that freedom. And the words that you might use when you're in that space that maybe you're looking for, but most people aren't looking for freedom and enlightenment and unity. I mean, it's a pretty thing to think about, but many of us we just want to reduce the shit. Right? We want to reduce the pain. So a couple things that you can do then is to make sure that if you're gonna be doing, a safe process or wanting a safe process with your psychedelic experience, and you've got maybe somebody that's there holding space for you, or you've had an experience like this and you're looking for somebody now to help that energy finish its path. Now there's some things that you can do in addition to just allowing it to run its course, just surrendering to it and having faith that it'll kind of work itself out. So that's kind of cycles me back around to where I was at the beginning. When you hook up a fire hose of divine fire water to a garden hose, which is us, like our container is a little tiny garden hose. When you hook that fire hose up to it, your body starts flying all over the place. Some people's do. And if that's you, you've been taken over so much by this thing, this force. It might be hugely beneficial, as it was for me. It was life-changing for me to have somebody else that could look at me from the outside and that knew enough yoga, knew the mechanics of yoga and specifically the bandhas. Now, when I say yoga, I'm not talking about a religion. I'm not talking about worshiping false gods or worshiping true gods. I'm talking about yoga as the science of how that energy moves through the body. Nothing more. The science of how it moves mechanically through the body. So, and yoga I like yoga because it has a language for this process. And they talk about locks, an energy lock up here and an energy lock down at the tailbone. And notice, and they're called bandhas. Notice when I drew tuck head, tuck tail, that those are two of the critical bandhas that yoga talks about, or locks, how you're actually locking energy into the system or locking it out of the system. But if we actually look at the locks here and down here, and we figure out how to treat those really sensitively, you can use them kind of like a padlock to help position them so that energy finds its way right up through that tube of spinal cord. Because what's that energy carrying? It's carrying all the information of who you are. Who you are at your heart, who you are in your power center, in the pelvis, how you speak. And do you want the speaking just, like if your head's forward, you're going to get access to information just from here. You're going to be speaking good ideas and understanding, and you're going to change the tone, your voice. But if this comes back and the action and the energy and information from who you are and all your thinking and feeling centers comes up and informs the words that comes from this throat chakra, you might feel more of who you are. And I like that. I like being able to play with mechanics to create the experience, to change, to really change kind of the focus of a camera lens. So that as everything comes into focus, the things change and you experience yourself as being different. And then you go, oh, something's different about who I am, who I'm being right now. And then the word authenticity comes up. Second, you change the experience first and you go, oh, I like this. What is a word for this? Well, this is maybe I feel better, or maybe it feels more authentically me. Rather than going, how am I gonna be more authentic? How am I gonna be more honest, and doing it from top down? I'm a big fan of bottom up. Bottom up living. All right. That's the end of my rant for today. Thanks, y'all, for hopping. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks. Subscribe if you would. If this feels like it's actually touching something meaningful to you, feels like a fit for who you are and where you are and trying to figure out. I'd love it if you'd share this information. If you have other people that you know, your friends of yours, or that you have these kind of conversations, and this feels like a valuable bit to add to the conversation. It'd be great if this is how the work that I do is to help people learn how to integrate that experience, that Kundalini, that energetic experience, so that they can then know who they are. They can access that inner knowing in addition to the kind of inner understanding. And there's subtle energy mechanics for how to do that. So that's the name of my Instagram page here, if you're on here, or my website, subtleenergymechanics.com. And I'd love to, if you've got thoughts, you've got feedback, you've got other ideas, people that you listen to, books, love to add them to the comments. I just like to be in the conversation here. So, all right, cheers, y'all. So, first kosha. That's second kosha, and we're gonna watch for there we go. There's the breath that we were watching for. That's more of the first kosha breath and the first kosha experience. Everything slows down.